We're witnessing something unprecedented in Ontario's real estate market right now, and if you're thinking about buying or selling, you need to know which neighborhoods are about to see the biggest price drops this year. Before we dive in, just don't miss number 5 and number 2 because what's happening in those areas will absolutely shock you and could change everything you thought you knew about Ontario real estate. Number 10. Huttonville, Brampton. Here's a neighborhood that's quietly becoming one of the most dramatic price correction stories in Ontario. Huttonville has seen its median home prices plummet by an absolutely staggering 53% from its peak, making it one of the hardest-hit areas in the entire Greater Toronto Area. But here's the thing that most people don't realize about Huttonville. This isn't just a random market correction. The neighborhood sits in a unique position where luxury meets suburban sprawl, and when the market started tightening, buyers began questioning whether they were getting value for their money. The average home price has dropped from over $1.4 million to under $700,000, and that's not even the most shocking part. What's really happening is that Huttonville represents a perfect storm of overvaluation meeting reality. The neighborhood was built up during the height of the real estate boom, with many properties selling for prices that simply couldn't be sustained once interest rates started climbing and buyer demand cooled. For potential buyers, this creates an incredible opportunity, but for current homeowners, it's a wake-up call that could affect their financial future for years to come. The ripple effects of what's happening in Huttonville are already spreading to neighboring areas, and if you own property in Brampton, you need to pay attention to these trends. What makes this even more concerning is that real estate experts are predicting this is just the beginning for this area. But wait, because what's happening in our next neighborhood makes Huttonville look like a minor adjustment. Number 9. Northwood, Brampton. If you thought Huttonville was dramatic, Northwood will absolutely blow your mind. This Brampton neighborhood has experienced one of the most severe price corrections in Ontario history, with average home prices dropping from over $1.2 million to just $751,000. That's a mind-blowing decrease that's leaving homeowners reeling and potential buyers wondering if this is the opportunity of a lifetime or a warning sign of something much worse to come. What's particularly fascinating about Northwood is how quickly this transformation happened. Just 18 months ago, this was considered one of Brampton's most desirable areas, with new developments and growing families flocking to the region. But here's what the real estate agents won't tell you. Northwood was built on speculation and inflated expectations that simply couldn't survive in today's economic climate. The neighborhood's infrastructure couldn't keep up with the rapid development, and when buyers started doing their homework, they realized they were paying premium prices for properties that didn't deliver premium value. The schools are overcrowded, the commute times to downtown Toronto are brutal, and the promised amenities never materialized the way developers claimed they would. For homeowners in Northwood, this represents a devastating loss of equity that could take years to recover. But for savvy investors and first-time home buyers, this could be the chance to get into the Greater Toronto Area market at prices we haven't seen in over a decade. The question everyone's asking is whether these prices will continue to fall or if we've reached the bottom. And that leads us perfectly into our next neighborhood, where the story gets even more complicated. Number 8. East Credit, Mississauga. Mississauga's East Credit neighborhood is experiencing something that's sending shockwaves through the entire Ontario real estate community. Home prices here have dropped by an incredible 42%, bringing the average home price down from $1.8 million to just over $1 million. But what makes East Credit's situation so unique is that this wasn't supposed to happen in Mississauga. East Credit was marketed as the perfect family neighborhood, close enough to Toronto for commuters, far enough away to feel suburban, and loaded with all the amenities that growing families want. The neighborhood features beautiful parks, top-rated schools, and easy access to major highways. So why are prices falling so dramatically? The answer lies in a perfect storm of economic factors that nobody saw coming. First, the work-from-home revolution has made long commutes less necessary, reducing the premium people are willing to pay for suburban locations. Second, rising interest rates have priced out many of the young families who were driving demand in areas like East Credit. And third, there's been a massive oversupply of similar properties in the region, creating a buyer's market that's driving prices down. What's really concerning real estate experts is that East Credit represents the broader Mississauga market, and if prices continue to fall here, it could signal a much larger correction across one of Ontario's most stable real estate markets. Homeowners who bought at the peak are facing the reality that their biggest investment has lost nearly half its value in just 2 years. But here's where it gets really interesting. Some analysts believe East Credit could be the canary in the coal mine for what's about to happen across the entire Greater Toronto area. The neighborhood's demographics, pricing history, and current market conditions might be a preview of coming attractions for other areas. Which brings us to a neighborhood that's about to surprise everyone with how far prices are expected to fall. Number 7. Jane and Finch, Toronto. Now, you might be thinking that Jane and Finch has always been one of Toronto's more affordable neighborhoods, so how can it experience a major price drop? But that's exactly what makes this situation so fascinating and frankly concerning for the broader Ontario market. Even in traditionally affordable areas like Jane and Finch, we're seeing price corrections that are reshaping the entire landscape of Toronto real estate. Home prices in Jane and Finch have dropped by 28% over the past year, bringing average home prices down to levels we haven't seen since 2018. But here's what's really happening behind these numbers. This neighborhood was experiencing significant gentrification and investment over the past 5 years, with developers and investors betting on its proximity to downtown Toronto and ongoing infrastructure improvements. The area was supposed to benefit from new transit connections, community revitalization projects, and an influx of young professionals looking for affordable housing options close to the city center. Properties that were selling for $400,000 just 5 years ago had climbed to over $750,000 at the peak. Now they're falling back to around $540,000, and many experts believe they could go even lower. What makes Jane and Finch's price drop so significant is what it tells us about buyer psychology in the current market. If even traditionally affordable neighborhoods are seeing major corrections, it suggests that the entire Toronto market was more overvalued than anyone realized. Buyers are becoming incredibly selective, and they're no longer willing to pay premium prices for properties based on future potential alone. For investors who bought into the gentrification story, this represents a massive loss. But for families who have been priced out of Toronto for years, this could be their chance to get back into the market. The question is whether this is a temporary dip or the beginning of a longer-term trend that will reshape Toronto's housing landscape. And speaking of reshaping the landscape, our next neighborhood is dealing with challenges that go far beyond simple market corrections. Number 6. Oshawa Centre. Oshawa Centre is experiencing something that real estate experts are calling a perfect storm of factors that are driving home prices down by an unprecedented 35%. What started as a promising suburban community with good value for money has turned into one of Ontario's most dramatic price correction stories, and the reasons why will surprise you. The neighborhood was built around the promise of being close enough to Toronto for commuters while offering more house for your money. Average home prices peaked at around $850,000, which seemed reasonable compared to Toronto's million-dollar averages. But now those same homes are selling for around $550,000, and there's no sign that the decline is slowing down. Here's what's really happening in Oshawa Centre. The neighborhood is dealing with a combination of economic pressures that are unique to its situation. First, the automotive industry changes in the region have created uncertainty about long-term employment prospects. Many of the families who move to Oshawa Centre work in manufacturing or automotive-related industries, and as those sectors face challenges, housing demand has weakened significantly. Second, the commute to Toronto has become less attractive as gas prices have risen and remote work has become more common. The neighborhood's main selling point, affordable housing with reasonable access to Toronto, has become less compelling when people don't need to commute as often. Third, the area is dealing with infrastructure challenges that are affecting quality of life and property values. But here's the most concerning part for homeowners in Oshawa Center. The demographic that was driving demand for housing in this area is the same demographic that's been most affected by economic uncertainty. Young families with moderate incomes who were stretching to afford homes at peak prices are now dealing with higher mortgage payments, inflation, and job insecurity. The result is a neighborhood where supply significantly outweighs demand, and prices are falling faster than anyone expected. Real estate agents in the area are reporting that homes are sitting on the market for months, and sellers are having to accept offers that are sometimes $100,000 below their asking price. Now, before we get to our top 5, I need to tell you that what we've covered so far is just setting the stage for some truly shocking revelations about where Ontario real estate is headed. Number 5, Mineola, Mississauga. Hold on to your seats, because what's happening in Mineola is going to change everything you thought you knew about Mississauga's real estate market. This neighborhood has experienced the most dramatic price drop in all of Mississauga, with average home prices plummeting from $2.6 million to just $1.4 million. That's a staggering 46% decrease that's sending shockwaves through the entire Greater Toronto Area real estate community. But here's what makes Mineola's situation so extraordinary, and why you absolutely cannot miss this. Mineola was considered one of Mississauga's premier neighborhoods, home to some of the most expensive properties in the region. These weren't speculative investments or overbuilt developments. These were established, luxury homes in a mature neighborhood with excellent schools, beautiful tree-lined streets, and proximity to premium shopping and dining. The fact that even Mineola is experiencing such dramatic price corrections tells us something profound about the current market that real estate experts are struggling to fully understand. When luxury markets start crashing, it often signals that the entire market structure is fundamentally changing. The wealthy buyers who typically drive luxury markets aren't just being cautious, they're actively avoiding real estate investments. What's particularly shocking about Mineola is the speed of the decline. 18 months ago, homes in this neighborhood were selling within days of being listed, often for above asking price. Now, luxury properties are sitting on the market for months, and sellers are having to accept offers that would have been unthinkable just 2 years ago. Some homeowners who bought at the peak are facing the reality that they've lost over $1 million in equity. But here's the most disturbing part. Mineola represents the high end of the market, and when high-end markets collapse, it often creates a cascade effect that impacts every price point below it. The psychological impact of seeing million-dollar price drops in premium neighborhoods is causing buyers at all levels to question whether now is the right time to buy. Real estate analysts are watching Mineola closely because it might be the canary in the coal mine for what's about to happen across Ontario's luxury markets. If established, premium neighborhoods like Mineola can see 46% price drops. What does that mean for the rest of the market? And that question becomes even more pressing when we look at our next neighborhood, where the situation is somehow even more dramatic. Number 4, Windfields, Toronto. If you thought Mineola was shocking, Windfields is going to absolutely blow your mind and potentially change your entire perspective on Toronto real estate. This prestigious Toronto neighborhood has seen home prices drop by an almost unbelievable amount, from $6.3 million to $3.2 million. That's a price drop of over $3 million per home, representing a 51% decrease that's unlike anything we've ever seen in Toronto's luxury market. Windfields isn't just any neighborhood. It's one of Toronto's most exclusive areas, home to business leaders, celebrities, and old money families. These are properties that were supposed to be recession-proof, immune to market fluctuations because of their unique characteristics and limited supply. The fact that even Windfields is experiencing such dramatic corrections suggests that something fundamental has changed in Ontario's real estate landscape. What makes Windfields' price drop so significant is what it reveals about buyer behavior at the highest levels of the market. Ultra-wealthy buyers aren't just being cautious, They're actively moving money out of real estate and into other investments. The luxury market was supposed to be supported by international buyers, investment funds, and wealthy individuals who could weather economic storms. But even these buyers are stepping back. The psychological impact of what's happening in Windfields is rippling through the entire Toronto market. When buyers see that even $6 million homes can lose half their value, it makes them question the stability of real estate as an investment at any price point. This uncertainty is contributing to the broader market slowdown we're seeing across Ontario. For homeowners in Windfields, this represents a catastrophic loss of wealth. Many of these properties were purchased as family homes with the expectation that they would appreciate over time and serve as generational wealth transfers. Instead, families are dealing with millions of dollars in lost equity and the reality that their most significant asset has become a liability. But here's what real estate experts are most concerned about. Windfields might be an early indicator of what's going to happen in other prestigious neighborhoods across Ontario. If Toronto's most exclusive market can see 50% price drops, what does that mean for the broader luxury market in cities like Ottawa, Hamilton, and other Ontario centers? The answer to that question might be found in our next neighborhood, where the forces driving price drops are even more complex and potentially more widespread. Number 3. Bayview Village, Toronto. Bayview Village represents something that's keeping real estate experts awake at night. A neighborhood that seemed to have everything going for it, yet is still experiencing significant price corrections that are shaping Toronto's mid to high-end market. Home prices here have dropped by 32%, bringing average prices down from $1.8 million to $1.2 million, and the reasons why are revealing uncomfortable truths about Ontario's real estate market. Bayview Village was supposed to be the perfect compromise for Toronto homebuyers, luxury amenities without the ultra-premium prices of neighborhoods like Windfields, excellent schools, mature trees, and reasonable access to downtown Toronto. The neighborhood attracted successful professionals, growing families, and empty nesters who wanted to stay in Toronto but needed more space than downtown condos could provide. But here's what's really happening in Bayview Village that's so concerning for the broader market. The neighborhood is experiencing a fundamental shift in what buyers value and are willing to pay for. The premium that buyers were willing to pay for suburban-style living within Toronto's borders has evaporated. As remote work has made location less critical and economic uncertainty has made buyers more price-sensitive. What makes Bayview Village's situation particularly interesting is that it's not dealing with the infrastructure problems affecting some outer suburbs, nor is it experiencing the luxury market collapse we're seeing in ultra-high-end neighborhoods. Instead, it's dealing with a more subtle but potentially more widespread issue. Buyers are simply refusing to pay premium prices for what they now consider to be standard amenities. The demographic that was driving demand in Bayview Village, successful professionals in their 40s and 50s, is the same demographic that's been most affected by economic uncertainty and changing work patterns. These buyers have the income to afford homes in the neighborhood, but they're choosing to wait, rent, or look at alternatives rather than commit to large mortgage payments in an uncertain market. For homeowners in Bayview Village, this represents a significant loss of equity, but it also raises questions about the long-term value proposition of Toronto real estate. If established, desirable neighborhoods like Bayview Village can see 30% price drops. It suggests that buyer psychology has fundamentally shifted. Real estate analysts are watching Bayview Village closely because it might represent the new normal for Toronto's housing market. A world where buyers are more selective, less willing to pay premiums, and more focused in value than status or location prestige. And that brings us to our number 2 spot, which you absolutely cannot miss because what's happening there is going to shock you and potentially predict the future of Ontario real estate. Number 2, Oakville Southwest. Get ready because what's happening in Oakville Southwest is going to completely change how you think about Ontario real estate. And it's exactly why I told you not to miss this one. This neighborhood is experiencing a price correction that's so dramatic and unexpected that it's forcing real estate experts to completely rethink their predictions for the entire Ontario market. Home prices in Oakville Southwest have dropped by an absolutely staggering 44%, bringing average prices down from $2.1 million to just $1.17 million. But here's what makes this so shocking. Oakville Southwest was supposed to be recession-proof. This is a neighborhood filled with executives, successful business owners, and professionals who seemed immune to economic downturns. What's really happening in Oakville Southwest reveals something that nobody in the real estate industry wants to talk about. Even wealthy buyers are running out of patience with overpriced real estate. The neighborhood was marketed as the ultimate lifestyle choice, combining luxury, living with family-friendly amenities, and reasonable access to Toronto. Properties here weren't just homes. They were status symbols that justified their premium prices. But here's the part that's keeping real estate experts up at night. The buyers who could afford Oakville Southwest homes aren't buying anywhere. They're not trading down to less expensive neighborhoods, they're not moving to different cities, and they're not waiting for prices to drop further. They're simply removing themselves from the real estate market entirely, choosing to rent luxury properties or relocate to entirely different regions. This represents a fundamental shift in how wealthy Ontarians view real estate investment. For decades, real estate was considered the safest way to build and preserve wealth. But the dramatic price swings we're seeing in neighborhoods like Oakville Southwest are changing that perception. When million-dollar price drops become commonplace, real estate starts looking less like a safe investment and more like a risky gamble. The ripple effects of what's happening in Oakville Southwest are already being felt across the Greater Toronto Area. Other high-end neighborhoods are seeing buyers reference Oakville Southwest prices when making offers, and sellers are being forced to accept that the market has fundamentally changed. The psychological impact of seeing such dramatic price drops in a premium neighborhood is affecting buyer confidence at every price level. For homeowners in Oakville Southwest, this represents more than just a loss of equity. It's a complete rethinking of their financial future. Many of these homeowners used their properties as collateral for business investments, expected them to fund their retirement, or planned to pass them on as generational wealth. Instead, they're dealing with the reality that their most significant asset has lost nearly half its value. But here's what makes Oakville Southwest's situation so critical for understanding Ontario's real estate future. This neighborhood represents the economic segment that typically drives the entire market. When upper-middle-class and wealthy buyers step back from real estate, it creates a vacuum that affects pricing and demand all the way down the market chain. And that brings us to our number one neighborhood, where everything we've discussed comes together in a way that will determine the future of Ontario real estate. Number 1. Forest Hill, Toronto. Here we are at number 1, and what's happening in Forest Hill is going to fundamentally change everything you thought you knew about Toronto real estate and potentially signal what's coming for the entire Ontario market. Forest Hill has experienced a price drop that's so significant and unexpected that it's causing real estate professionals to question every assumption they've made about the Toronto market. Home prices in Forest Hill have dropped by 38%, bringing average prices down from $4.2 million to $2.6 million. But here's why Forest Hill deserves the number 1 spot. This isn't just any neighborhood experiencing a price correction. Forest Hill is Toronto's most prestigious address, home to some of Canada's wealthiest families, and historically one of the most stable real estate markets in the entire country. Forest Hill represents old money, established wealth, and the kind of generational property ownership that was supposed to be immune to market fluctuations. These are properties that have been in families for decades, neighborhoods where homes rarely come on the market, and when they do, they're supposed to sell quickly to a limited pool of ultra-wealthy buyers. The fact that even Forest Hill is experiencing such dramatic price corrections tells us that something fundamental has broken in Ontario's real estate market. This isn't about affordability, infrastructure problems, or changing demographics. This is about a complete loss of confidence in real estate as a store of value, even at the highest levels of the market. What's particularly shocking about Forest Hill's price drops is the speed at which they've occurred. 18 months ago, properties in Forest Hill were still selling for record prices, with bidding wars and above-asking offers being common. The neighborhood seemed completely insulated from the broader market concerns affecting other areas of Toronto. But here's what real estate analysts are discovering about Forest Hill that's so concerning. The ultra-wealthy buyers who typically drive this market aren't just being cautious, they're actively diversifying away from Canadian real estate entirely. International buyers are looking at other markets. Domestic wealthy buyers are moving money into other investments, and even long-term Forest Hill residents are considering selling and relocating. The psychological impact of what's happening in Forest Hill cannot be overstated. When Toronto's most prestigious neighborhood sees million-dollar price drops, it sends a message to buyers at every level that no neighborhood is safe from correction. This is contributing to the wait-and-see attitude we're seeing across the entire Ontario market. For Forest Hill homeowners, this represents a catastrophic loss of wealth that will have implications for years to come. Many of these properties were purchased not just as homes, but as foundations for family wealth that was expected to appreciate and be passed down through generations. Instead, families are dealing with the reality that their most significant assets have lost millions of dollars in value. But here's what makes Forest Hill's situation so critical for understanding Ontario's real estate future. This neighborhood represents the absolute top of the market, and when the top fails, it creates a cascade effect that impacts every level below it. The confidence crisis that's affecting Forest Hill buyers is spreading throughout the Toronto market and beginning to affect other Ontario cities as well. Real estate experts are watching Forest Hill closely because what happens here over the next 6 months will likely determine the direction of Ontario's entire real estate market. If Forest Hill can stabilize and begin to recover, it might signal that we've reached the bottom of the correction. But if prices continue to fall in Toronto's most prestigious neighborhood, it could indicate that we're still in the early stages of a much larger market adjustment. So there you have it, the 10 Ontario neighborhoods that are seeing the biggest price drops this year, from Huttonville's 53% decline to Forest Hill's shocking 38% correction. What we're witnessing isn't just a normal market cycle, but a fundamental shift in how Ontarians view real estate investment. These price drops reveal changing buyer psychology, economic uncertainty, and a market that's still trying to find its footing after years of unprecedented growth. What do you think about these neighborhoods and their dramatic price changes? Are these corrections creating opportunities for new buyers, or are they warning signs of bigger problems ahead? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and tell us which neighborhood surprised you the most and why. If you found this analysis helpful and want to stay updated on Ontario's changing real estate landscape, make sure to like this video, share it with anyone who's thinking about buying or selling, and subscribe for more in-depth market analysis. Click the bell icon to get notified when we release our next video covering the neighborhoods that might actually see price increases this year.